For the second time in comic book history, a record-setting 23 different titles were on the newsstands this particular month, September 1938. Fiction House began in 1921 as a pulp magazine publisher of primarily aviation, western, and sports pulps. In 1938, Fiction House expanded into comic books. Receptive to a sales call by Eisner and Iger, one of the prominent packagers of that time who produced complete comic books on demand for publishers looking to enter the field, publisher Scott released Jumbo Comics #1, dated September 1938. Fiction House star Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, appeared in that initial issue. Will Eisner and Jerry Iger had created the leopard-wearing jungle goddess for the British magazine Wags under the joint pseudonym W. Morgan Thomas. Fiction House's other features in that initial foray include the period adventure Hawks of the Seas, continuing a story from Quality Comics Feature Funnies #12 after Eisner, Iger, and Quality had a falling out. Future industry legend Jack Kirby did his first comic book for Jumbo Comics following his debut in Wild Boy magazine, the science fiction feature The Diary of Dr. Hayward, under the pseudonym Kurt Davis. Jumbo Comics #1, September 1938, published by Fiction House. Considered one of Overstreet's top 100 most valuable comic books of all time, this is the first published comic book art by Jack Kirby and also the very first comic published by Fiction House. Bob Kane and Will Eisner contribute to this issue as well. Overstreet calls this issue rare, and Gerber gives it an 8 on its scarcity scale. The book happens to have the first appearance of the publisher's most prominent character in the United States, Sheena, Queen of the Jungle. This book is literally jumbo-sized, measuring 10.5 by 14.5 inches. The first 8 issues are large, oversized, and cannot be graded by CGC. There is a mile-high pedigree copy of issues 1 through 8. #1 had a price tag of 10 cents and 68 pages. It officially went on sale July 12, 1938. Malcolm Reese was the editor, Jerry Iger was the feature editor, and Will Eisner was the art director. The cover features Uncle Otto, Hawks of the Seas, Peter Pup, and Sheena, Queen of the Jungle. Peter Pup is a 4-page story written and drawn by Bob Kane, reprinted from Wags, the UK edition, Editor's Press Service, issue number 26. Hawks of the Seas is a 5-page story drawn by Will Eisner, and this is also reprinted from Wags, the UK edition, Editor's Press Service, issue number 58. Earlier pages from Hawks of the Seas were reprinted in Quality's Feature Funnies issues. And Jerry Iger gave us 2 pages of Bobby, aimed at young readers, with the characters Bobby and Miss Eiffel. The Count of Monte Cristo is a 4-page story written by Alexandra Dumas, the original author, with art by Jack Kirby under the alias Jack Curtis. This adventure strip features the characters Edmond Dantes, Fernand Mondego, and the Fair Mercedes. And it is reprinted from Wags, the UK edition, from Editor's Press Service, issues 64 and 65. And this story was adapted from Alexandra Dumas's novel. The Diary of Dr. Hayward is a 4-page story drawn by Jack Kirby under the alias Kurt Davis. And this is reprinted from Wags, the UK edition, Editor's Press Service, issue number 64. And this is an early science fiction comic strip featuring the characters Stuart Taylor and Chromo. Uncle Otto is a 1-page story written and drawn by Will Eisner, the humor tale written under the alias of Carl Heck. Pee-wee is a 1-page story written and drawn by Jerry Iger as S.M. Iger. This humor tale features the characters Pee-wee, Bushy, and Uncle Seamus. Sheena, Queen of the Jungle debuts in American comic books in 5 pages, written by Will Eisner under the alias W. Morgan Thomas, with art by Mort Meskin. And this features the characters Sheena, Rivington, Bob Reynolds, who appears in all Sheena stories, and Professor Van Dyke. And this is reprinted from Wags, the UK comic, from Editor's Press Service, issues 58 and 56. Gilda Gay is a 1-page story drawn by Bernard Bailey in this humor title. ZX5, Spies in Action, is 4 pages drawn by Will Eisner. and is reprinted from Wag's UK Magazine Editor's Press Service, issue number 50 from February 1938. Heroes of Sport is one page, drawn by Will Eisner, and features sports tales. The Hunchback of Notre Dame is 5 pages, written by Dick Briefer, the adapter from the original author Victor Hugo, with art by Dick Briefer in this adventure tale, featuring the characters Quasimodo, Esmeralda, Phoebus, and Claude Frollo, reprinted from Wag's, the UK edition, issues number 17 and 21, based on the classic novel by Victor Hugo. Richard Dick Briefer, born January 9th, 1915, lived until December 1980, an American comic book artist best known for various adaptations, including humorous ones, of the Frankenstein monster. Under the pseudonym Dick Hamilton, he also created the superhero team The Target and The Targeteers for Novelty Press. Wilton of the West, drawn by Jack Kirby, is his first Western frontier tale. Jack Kirby, born August 28, 1917, lived until February 6, 1994. Born Jacob Kurtzberg, an American comic book artist, writer, and editor, widely regarded as one of the medium's major innovators and one of its most prolific and influential creators. Kirby began in comics with Jumbo Comics #1 in 1938 in the United States. In 1940, he and writer-editor Joe Simon created the highly successful superhero character Captain America for Timely Comics. During the 40s, Kirby generally teamed with Joe Simon, created numerous characters for that company and also for DC Comics. Later at Crestwood Publications, he and Joe Simon created the genre of romance comics and later founded their own short-lived comic company, Mainline Publications. Ultimately, Kirby found himself at Timely's 1950s version, Atlas Comics, which would eventually become Marvel Comics. In the early 60s, Jack Kirby and writer-editor Stan Lee co-created many of the company's major characters, including the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, and the Incredible Hulk. The Lee-Kirby titles garnered high sales and critical acclaim. By 1970, Kirby left the company and moved to DC, where he created his Fourth World saga in the early 1970s. He's regarded by many as the greatest comic book artist of all time. Amazing Mystery Funnies #2, September 1938, published by Centaur Publications. This features a bondage cover by Bill Everett. It is the first bondage cover ever in comics and the first sexy female cover ever in comics. Bill Everett and Will Eisner artwork is featured in this issue. There is a Mile High pedigree copy from the Edgar Church collection and a Billy Wright pedigree copy. The cover features Skyrocket Steel, drawn by Bill Everett. This early science fiction comic cover features the characters Vance Roy and Sari Marston. Skyrocket Steel does appear in a 5-page story written and drawn by Bill Everett in this sci-fi tale, featuring the first appearance of Skyrocket, Steel Dodge, and Sari Marston, and the villain Vance Roy. 2038 AD is a 2-page story written and drawn by A.S. Van Eerd. This is the first appearance of this strip, also an early science fiction comic strip. The Brothers 3 is a 7-page story from writer-artist Will Eisner and is reprinted from Funny Picture Stories, Volume 1, Number 4, from 1937. Action Comics #4, September 1938, published by DC Comics. The official sale date of this issue was July 25th, 1938. Gerber calls this book uncommon. The cover art is by Leo E. O'Mealia and features the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. The Superman story featured in this issue is his 4th appearance ever. 12 pages, written by Jerry Siegel with art by Joe Shuster. Features Superman, Tommy Burke, Mary, Coach Randall, the villain, Ray Martin, Oliver Stanley, and Wallace Dodd. Overhearing a crooked college football coach at Dale University plotting to populate his team with thugs to defeat rival Cornell University, Superman impersonates a football player from Cornell to straighten the situation out. Superman uses some interesting measures to achieve his goal. He drugs a sports player with a hypodermic needle and then impersonates him on the team. He punches a fellow football player, which knocks him across the room. And during a football game, Superman continues to carry the ball across the field, even with 5 guys hanging on his back. This story would be reprinted in Superman #1 in the summer of 1939. Superman does not appear on the cover of this issue. Pep Morgan returns in a 4-page story written by Gardner Fox with art by Fred Gardenier under the alias Gene Baxter. Tex Thompson is a lengthy 12-page story, possibly written by Ken Fitch, with art by Bernard Bailey. Scoop Scanlon, 5-star reporter, is a 6-page strip from artist Will Eli. Zaytera, Master Magician, from writer-artist Fred Gardenier, and this is the 4th appearance of Zaytera. And Zaytera defends the lovely dancer Joan from the Dances of Big Bill. Crackajack Funnies, number 4, September 1938, published by Dell Comics. The cover features Don Winslow, Wash Tubbs, Dan Dunn, Freckles, and Myra North. There is a file copy from Dell Comics of this issue. Super Comics, number 5, September 1938, published by Dell Comics. Smilin' Jack, Terry and the Pirates, Dick Tracy, Little Orphan Annie, and many more pre-1940s comic characters are featured in this issue. There is a Dell file copy of this book surviving. The cover is by artist Bill Holman. Dick Tracy appears in a 3-page story from writer-artist Chester Gould and is reprinted from the Chicago Tribune, New York News Syndicate, 1937. Little Orphan Annie returns in 4 pages from writer-artist Harold Gray, and Terry and the Pirates returns in a 5-page story from writer-artist Milton Caniff. This story reprinted from the Terry and the Pirates Sunday at the Chicago Tribune, New York News Syndicate, dated January through February 1937. And this issue features a promo ad for Mickey Mouse. Comics on Parade, number 6, September 1938, published by United Features. Little Abner, Captain and the Kids, Abby and Slats, Ella Cinders, Fritzy Ritz, and others appear in this issue and on the cover. And there is 5 pages of Tarzan strips in this issue. Keen Detective Funnies, number 9, September 1938, published by Centaur Publications. There is a Billy Wright pedigree copy of this issue and a Lamont Larson pedigree copy of this issue. The first mass comic book hero ever, the Clock, appears again in this issue. This is the 2nd issue of this series, containing mostly reprints from earlier Centaur books, including Funny Picture Stories, Volume 1, Number 2 and Number 3, Western Picture Stories, Number 1, and Detective Picture Stories, Number 3 and Number 4. The Hidden Message is featured on the cover by artist John Patterson and is possibly reprinted from Western Picture Stories. Wild Tex Martin is a 7-page story written and drawn by Will Eisner in this Western Frontier tale reprinted from Western Picture Stories, number 1 from 1937. The Clock appears in a 7-page story written and drawn by George Brenner in this detective mystery superhero tale reprinted from Funny Picture Stories, Volume 1, Number 2 from 1936. The Comics, number 10, September 1938, published by Dell Comics. Clancy the Cop is featured on the cover. Rod Ryan of the Sky Police appears in a 4-page story written and drawn by Paul Jepson in this early science fiction tale, reprinted from Rod Ryan of the Sky Police newspaper strips at the George Matthew Adams Service. Gordon Fife and the Boy King is 3 pages from writer Bob Moore and art by Carl Pfeiffer in this adventure tale reprinted from the Gordon Fife and the Boy King newspaper strip at Watkins Syndicate. Tex Ritter is a 6-page story drawn by Norman Fallon. This Western Frontier tale is an adaptation of the 1937 movie Riders of the Rockies of the famous Western star Tex Ritter, who is the father of TV actor John Ritter. Funny Pages, Volume 2, Number 10, September 1938, published by Centaur Publications. The first appearance of the superhero The Arrow debuts here by Paul Gustafson. There's a Mile High pedigree copy of this issue from the Edgar Church collection. Gerber rates this book rare and Overstreet calls it scarce. The cover is drawn by Martin Filchock. The Arrow makes his debut in this early superhero strip featuring The Arrow, alias Ralph Payne. And the art is by Paul Gustafson in 5 pages. Funny Picture Stories, Volume 2, Number 10, September 1938, published by Centaur Publications. The cover art is by Dick Ryan. There is a Billy Wright pedigree copy of this issue, and the science fiction strip Jack Strand appears in this issue. Feature Funnies, Number 12, September 1938, published by Quality Comics. Joe Palooka is featured on the cover, drawn by Ed Cronin. Lollapalooza returns in 4 pages, written and drawn by Rube Goldberg, reprinted from the Frank J. Markey Syndicate. Screen Snapshots is a 1-page cartoon written and drawn by Bernard Bailey, based on Universal Phoenix features. Clip Chance at Cliffside is a 4-page story written and drawn by George Brenner under the alias Scott Sheridan and features the first appearances of Bob Hoyt and Bill Webb. The Clock Strikes is another superhero tale, 5 pages, written and drawn by George Brenner, featuring the Clock and Charitable Charlie, who is the villain in this issue. Archie O'Toole is 2 pages, written and drawn by Will Eisner under the alias Bud Thomas in this adventure humor tale, where Guillotine tries to get Archie to fall in love with a female impersonator. Hawks of the Seas is 4 pages, written and drawn by Will Eisner under the alias Willis Renzi. This historical tale, reprinted from Wags UK, the Editor's Press Service, issue number 54. And this series would be continued in Jumbo Comics number 1 at Fiction House. Star Comics number 14, September 1938, published by Centaur Publications. The cover, Clang, 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 is drawn by Gil Fox. There is Fred Gardenier artwork in this issue, and Little Nemo in Slumberland strip appears. Feature Books number 17, Gangbusters, September 1938, published by David McKay Publications. This is the first appearance in comics of Gangbusters. This is a 10-cent comic with a thick 76 pages, black and white interior but color cover, an oversized series, 9 by 12 inches in size. Gangbusters is adapted from the famous radio program, but features original material. Gangbusters was an American dramatic radio program heralded as the only national program that brings you authentic police case histories. It premiered as G-Man, sponsored by Chevrolet in 1935, but the title was changed to Gangbusters on January 15th, 1936, and the show would have a 21-year run into 1957. The popularity of the radio show prompted a spin-off comic book series published later by DC Comics, which ran for 67 issues from 1947 to 58. Big Little books based on the series were also produced, and Universal Pictures made a very popular Gangbusters movie serial in 1942. The cover is Gangbusters, drawn by Jimmy Thompson, and there's 71 pages worth of Gangbusters strips drawn by Jimmy Thompson. It's a long text story with illustrations by Jimmy Thompson throughout the book, ranging from full-page to small panel illustrations. Ace Comics number 18, September 1938, published by David McKay Publications. The cover features the Katzenjammer Kids, drawn by Joe Musial in this fun, all-ages humor cover. Jungle Jim appears in a 4-page story drawn by Alex Raymond. Blondie appears in 4 pages from artist Chick Young. And The Phantom returns in 4 pages from writer Lee Falk with art by Ray Moore in this Adventure Jungle superhero strip. Detective Comics number 19, September 1938, published by DC Comics. The official on-sale date was August 5th, 1938. The cover art is by Craig Flessel. There is a mile-high pedigree copy of this book from the Edgar Church Collection. Speed Saunders appears in a 6-page story from writer Gardner Fox with art by Fred Gardenier, featuring the first appearance of the character Dave Grogan. Inspector Kent is a 6-page story written and drawn by George Newman, and this is the first appearance of this character. Larry Steele is a 6-page story written and drawn by Will Eli, and the story is printed in black and white. Spy is 8 pages from the team of Siegel and Schuster, and it features Bart Reagan and Sally Norris almost getting married. Dr. Fu Manchu returns in 4 pages, and this is a Sax Rohmer adaptation credited to Rohmer. The art is by Leo O'Mialia, and the adventure strip is reprinted from and adapted from the Insidious Dr. Fu Manchu by Sax Rohmer. A Dead Case is a 2-page text story written by Gardner Fox under the alias Paul Dean. Steve Malone is 6 pages, written by Gardner Fox. This story is printed in black and white and features Steve Malone and the villain Luigi Farini. The Funnies, number 24, September 1938, published by Dell Comics. The cover features Our Boarding House with Major Hoople, a humor cover. 4 Aces is a 2-page story written and drawn by Hal Forrest. This adventure aviation strip is reprinted from the 4 Aces Sundays at the Bell Syndicate. Scribbly appears in 2 pages from writer-artist Sheldon Mayer. The Wonderland of Oz is a 2-page story written and drawn by Walt Spouse, and this fantasy supernatural strip based on The Wizard of Oz features the characters Tip, Jack Pumpkinhead, and Wooden Sawhorse. The Singing Outlaw is 6 pages, drawn by Richard Rogers, a Western frontier strip adapted from the Universal Motion Picture. And Heroes Hall of Fame is a 1-page strip written and drawn by Stookie Allen, featuring a biography of the heroic war dog Rags. Tip Top Comics number 29, September 1938, published by United Features Syndicate. Captain and the Kids are featured on the cover. There is a Davis Crippen D-copy pedigree copy of this book. Tarzan, Little Abner, Abby and Slats, Ellisanders, Fritzy Ritz, and many others appear in this issue. The on-sale date of this issue was officially Tuesday, August 2nd, 1938. King Comics number 30, September 1938, published by David McKay Publications. Joe Musial did the cover artwork. This is a music instrument cover, the first one ever, with either a guitar or a bass guitar on the cover played by Popeye. Olive Oyl and Henry also appear on the cover. There is a Lost Valley pedigree copy of this issue. New Adventure Comics number 30, September 1938, published by DC Comics. The official on-sale date was August 8th, 1938. There's a Mile High pedigree copy of this book from the Edgar Church Collection. The cover art is by Craig Flessel, featuring a whale and whalers. Anchors Away is a 6-page story written and drawn by Fred Gardenier. Just a Minute is a 1-page strip, humor, written and drawn by Bob Kane. Federal Men return in 4 pages from the team of Siegel and Schuster in their detective mystery, and we get the first appearance of Butch Durkin and Gat. Nadir, Master of Magic is a 4-page story written and drawn by Will Eli. This adventure fantasy supernatural strip features the first appearance of Captain Jim, but this is the last appearance ever of this strip, and the story is never resolved. Professor Doolittle is a 2-page story written and drawn by Bob Kane. Robin Hood returns in 6 pages from writer-artist Sven Elvin, but this is the last appearance of Robin Hood in this title. Rusty and His Pals is 4 pages written and drawn by Bob Kane. Dale Daring appears in 4 pages, written and drawn by Will Eli. Popular Comics number 32, September 1938, published by Dell Comics. Some of the features include Tippy, Ted Starr, Skippy, Don Dixon, Tailspin Tommy, and Tim McCoy featured in Phantom Ranger. More Fun Comics number 35, September 1938, published by DC Comics. The cover art is by Craig Flessel. The official on-sale date of this issue is August 1st, 1938. Radio Squad appears in a 6-page story from the team of Siegel and Schuster. The detective mystery features the characters Sandy Keene, Larry Trent, and Scoop Hanlon. And the chief makes Larry dress up as a girl to catch robbers up at Lover's Lane. Bloodhound Brown makes its only appearance ever in a 4-page strip written and drawn by Russell Cole under the alias Algar in this humor title. Buccaneer is a 6-page story, possibly written by Ken Fitch, with art by Bernard Bailey in this historical adventure strip. Johnny Law is 4 pages, drawn by Will Eli. And Bob Kane gives us Ginger Snap, 2 pages which he wrote and drew, a humor child story. Sportettes is a 1-page cartoon written and drawn by Sheldon Moldoff in a nonfiction sports strip featuring Bitsy Grant, Mel Ott, and Freddie Lindstrom. Cinema Dust is a 1-page cartoon written and drawn by Sheldon Moldoff, a nonfiction biographical strip featuring Joe E. Brown, Wallace Beery, Eleanor Powell, and Eddie Cantor, all celebrities. Sandra of the Secret Service is a 3-page story drawn by Will Eli. The detective mystery ends in this issue. Mickey Mouse Magazine, number 36, Volume 3, number 12, September 1938, published by Western Publishing Company. Donald Duck is featured on the cover with a skunk, and the Donald Duck reprints end in this issue. There is a Western Publishing file copy of this issue. Famous Funnies, number 50, September 1938, from Eastern Color. This historic comic reaches its 50th issue, the first time this has ever happened in comic book history with a monthly title. 50 issues. The cover is by Victor Pazmino and features King Cedric. There is a Davis Crippen D-copy pedigree of this issue. Buck Rogers appears in a 4-page story written by Phil Nolan with art by Dick Calkins in the classic first science fiction comic strip featuring Buck Rogers and Wilma Deering. Copyright John F. Dill. War on Crime returns in a 2-page story written by Rex Collier with art by Jimmy Thompson in this very first long-running first crime genre comic strip ever. This one features the character J. Edgar Hoover and is copyright The Ledger Syndicate. And Jerry Iger, under the alias Bob Bliss, gives us the 1-page comic strip Queenie.